I'm with Julie Hesmondhalgh, who has kindly agreed to talk to me today about the role that she plays in Broadchurch as a survivor of rape. How well do you think the character that you play and Broadchurch, the series, challenges the myths and misconceptions that so many people hold about rape and sexual violence?
I think that one of the great things about Broadchurch 3 and the way that it's telling this story is in really shattering some of the myths and misconceptions, the very outdated stereotypes about what it's like to report an act of sexual violence or a rape. I'm sure a lot of people still think that it's a situation where you're taken into the back of a cop shop, and a couple of male officers very roughly handle you with a sort of veneer of like not really believing you. And I think it was very important to everybody in the team to sort of try and break through that and show that things have changed. It has to be said that that change has come from the bottom up. That hasn't just happened, Not people have suddenly thought, oh, we better start treating like people with a bit more dignity and respect. It's from endless campaigning from in the field, from rape crisis and from the different SARCs and from the ISVAs, the Independent Sexual Violence Advisors, who've seen firsthand the way that women and men are treated in that respect. So huge leaps have been made, although things are still difficult. It is a constant challenge, I think, and I think that Broadchurch really wanted to show that, and specifically that you'll be treated from a point of being believed. I think that's really, really important. That has to be the starting point for anyone coming forward.
How do you feel about the levels of sexual violence that exist in our society?
Well, the scale of it seems to me to be like an epidemic, and something is really, really going wrong in our society that has been normalised to that degree. The numbers are so shockingly high. I think it's 85,000 women in England and Wales and 12,000 men every year. And it turns out it's something like 4 an hour or something like that. And I think that everybody would be staggered by those numbers. And of course, after that, the amount who actually report it and the amount that actually go to trial and then the amount of convictions that occur, those figures are quite shocking as well.
You've mentioned a few of the changes there, but what do you think can be done to combat it?
I think the way we talk to young men about sex is hugely important. Those are the starting places. But also just as a society, culturally, the way that we talk about sexual violence. I know there's been massive conversations recently about the televising of it, and I have got fed up of it. I am absolutely sick of, in programmes that I love, seeing young women being chased through woods by predators, seeing dead women, on slabs being cut to pieces after terrible acts of violence have been enacted on them. And I think that has become so normal for us as viewers of television that we will happily even sit and watch that with our young teenagers, and it's just the way things are. And I'd like to see that really overturned. I'm really glad that conversation has started. This can happen to absolutely anyone. It is not an act of sex, it's not an act of desire, it's an act of violence.
And what would you say to any woman who was considering reporting rape or sexual violence to the police?
It's a really hard thing, so it's not up to anybody else. But just know that the support is there. Still needs a lot of work. It's patchy all over the country. In some places there's great support. In other places, because of the cuts, there's hardly any support at all. I know that running alongside Broadchurch there's going to be lots of campaigns from SARCs and rape crisis centres that have had their funding cut. The worst possible time for that to happen. So we need to keep campaigning for those services to remain open and remain funded, and we need to keep campaigning for the support to be there for everyone, and that's the first thing that we need to work towards. We can't keep waiting until it happens to us or to somebody that we love before we start to sit up and take notice of this crisis. We know there's a funding crisis, but for me, we live in one of the richest countries in the world. There is the money there. It's choosing how we spend that money and what resources we spend it on. And I can't think of anything. The long-term effects of something like this happening to someone in terms of what it does to a family, a community, a society, the mental health problems of not only the person it's happened to, but the people around them. those things are so far-reaching, and the services for them are being cut as well. It's like the well-being of us as a society is being hacked away at by a false idea of how much money our society has, and I think there's enough money to do it, and I think we need to keep fighting for that every step along the way.